This is the WWE Backlash 2025 full show results video, which takes place at Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri. The show started with a Fatal 4-way match between Jacob Fatu vs. Drew McIntyre vs. Damian Priest vs. LA Knight for the United States Championship. They quickly split off with their WrestleMania opponent after the bell, with Priest and McIntyre heading to the floor. A Priest Hurricane Rana sends Fatu reeling, and takes us into a stretch where the Archer of Infamy dominates. That stretch takes us to a showdown between Fatu and McIntyre where the champ wobbles Drew, and that takes us to a frenetic sequence where the champ sentences McIntyre, gets BFT by Knight, who turns into a Priest chokeslam, who gets a Claymore, but no one gets a pin though. Things clear out and we get down to Knight and McIntyre in the ring. Drew hits a Claymore and goes for the cover, but Priest pulls him out. Fatu goes for a moonsault but comes up empty, elbow drop on the champ, and another. But Jacob kicks out. Meanwhile, Priest and McIntyre are clubbering each other in the stands, with Damian pausing mid-beatdown to mock his rival by telling the camera Drew is bored at work. Knight rocks Fatu and sets him up on the announce table for another elbow when Solo Sikoa pulls his guy free. LA goes after him when he gets grabbed by a black-clad man on the outside. It's Jeff Cobb. He decimates Knight, then throws him into the ring. A clearly out-of-the-loop Fatu stares at Sikoa, who just gestures to LA in the ring as an offering. The champ heads inside, hits a moonsault, pins Knight, won the match, and retains the US title. Post-match, Jacob Fatu scares both Solo Sikoa and Jeff Cobb, and walked off. We find out that WWE is headed back to Saudi Arabia for Night of Champions on June 28th, and the first ever SmackDown in the Kingdom the night before. The next match happened between Lyra Valkyria vs. Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Fast-paced open, with the champ attempting a flash pin before getting thrown so Lynch can do a Hoganier cup for the smattering of boos she's getting. Valkyria swings Becky in a modified Boston Crab as the pace slows, but she still keeps the man on the back foot. Lynch takes control after dodging a top rope attack, and digs into her heel bag of tricks to do things like argue with referee Jessica Carr about pin counts and having until 5. She also jawed with Lyra's fiancé while kicking the champ's butt on the floor. Valkyria angrily fires back after being slapped in the face by the challenger, then gets slapped a bunch until she powers Lynch up for a slam. They brawl to the corner and the top, where Valkyria hits a stalling superplex, but she still can't get 3. They roll through some pinfalls, and Lynch gets caught trying to use the ropes. Crossbody to the outside from the champ, then rolls Becky back into the ring for a top rope leg drop to the back of Lynch's head. Trading shots in the middle of the ring, Becky gets a disarmer, and when the champ gets free, a manhandle slam, but Valkyria kicks out, and Lynch goes nuts. She heads outside to get a chair, which allows Lyra to recover. Both women survive big moves and show a great deal of frustration when her opponent does the same. Valkyria hits Nightwing, but Carr is busy dealing with a turnbuckle pad Lynch took apart earlier and doesn't start the count immediately, allowing Becky to kick out. Another exchange includes a Lynch eye poke that the referee doesn't see, but the champ reverses a roll-up for 3, and Lyra defeated Becky by pinfall to retain the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Post-match, Lynch snaps again and it takes a squad of officials to get her to release a disarmer, then has to be escorted to the back by producer Jason Jordan. The next match happened between Dominic Mysterio vs. Penta for the Intercontinental Championship. The challenger in control early, but Dom hits the ropes as Penta goes to walk them. After being crotched, Penta goes outside, so Mysterio dives and transitions into a DDT on the floor. Dom sends his opponent into the steps, then poses to the crowd. The champ continues to control the action back in the ring, but escapes a chin lock to hit a clothesline. Back and forth continued until Penta hit a destroyer on the apron. That was when Judgment Day showed up, but Finn Balor gets caught with a chair before he can do anything with it. Penta flies to take out Carlito and JD McDonough, but Balor avoids it. The referee goes to address Finn, and El Grande Americano emerges as Penta is climbing to launch an attack on Dirty Dom, and headbutts him with the loaded mask. Then Dominic Mysterio delivered a frog splash, and pinned Penta to win the match by pinfall, and also retained the Intercontinental Championship. The next match happened between Gunther vs. Pat McAfee. McAfee crumples after taking his first chop, then gets a few more in the corner. Finally, he stumbles out and shadow boxes with a phantom before getting knocked to the mat again. Gunther just smiles instead of going for a pin, and the former All-Pro punter lands some kicks on the former world champ. That doesn't stop Pat Mac from smashing him down to the mat again, and then mockingly invite Cole into the ring when McAfee's pal calls for him to end it with a pin. Another McAfee punch lands, so he gets chopped down again. Pat powers out of a sleeper, but then gets suplexed on his head and Gunther continues to showboat rather than go for covers. He sets McAfee on the top and climbs for a superplex, but Pat flips free to land on his feet, and does the same when Gunther catches him for a suplex back in the ring. This one lasts much longer, and leads to Gunther covering up and taking even more kicks. Ring General wobbles, but slams the announcer down and puts him into a Boston Crab. Cole gets up to shout support to his friend, so Gunther transitions to more vicious submission maneuvers. When that doesn't work, Gunther drags Cole into the ring and Pat lands a kick to save his pal, and rolls up Gunther for 2. Cole grabs Gunther's foot on a suplex to save his friend, then Pat jumps on his back and applies a chokehold to keep Gunther from going after Cole. Sleeper with the body scissor, but Pat somehow powers up to connect with some elbows to the gut, but Gunther never breaks the hold. McAfee is out cold when the referee calls for the bell, and Gunther won the match by submission. Cole slides into the ring to check on his friend, who blares at Gunther from the mat, and the big man tips his cap to McAfee before finally leaving. In the main event of the show, we saw a match between John Cena versus Randy Orton for the undisputed WWE Championship. Cena offers a hand, but Orton just smirks. Cena makes a sales pitch, offers it again, and when Randy accepts this time, Cena pokes him in the eye. After stalling outside for a second, Cena charges back in and they lock up again. Randy with a side headlock, and they go to the mat and back up in that hold for a minute, then Cena goes to walk out of the match, take the disqualification, and keep his belt. Orton follows and punches him back into the ring, where the champ takes him down and follows up with lots of striking. The champ regains control, but Orton slips out of an attitude adjustment attempt. Randy fights back to set up for the elevated DDT, but Cena has that scouted and counters into an STF. Then Cena was ready and went for the AA, but Orton manages to transition into a modified RKO while taking it, and both men are down. Exchanging strikes in the middle of the ring when Cena grabs Orton for an AA out of nowhere. He runs the ropes, and Orton rebounds from a shoulder block to hit an RKO. With Cena on his hands and knees recovering, Randy goes to punt him in the head, but the champ was ready for the legend killer. He hits another AA, and still can't get 3, then Cena goes for a punt of his own, and referee Chad Patton gets bumped as Orton dodges. He hits another AA, but the official is down and Cena goes to retrieve his belt to use it as a weapon, but Randy gets another RKO. Frustrated, Orton throws Cena outside and clears the announce table, then Patton tries to talk him out of it, and Cena recovers to charge at the challenger, which sends the official into the ring steps. Cena wants to AA his nemesis through the announce table, but Randy slips free and does it to him instead. Cowboy Bob's boy takes his time looking for plunder under the ring and eventually sets up a table, but of course Cena's recovered by the time he gets to him. He assaults him on the ropes, then goes for an AA, but Orton reverses again and Cena goes through the table. Another RKO, another referee is charging down the ramp, but by the time he gets to the ring, Cena's recovered enough to kick out. Randy argues with the ref as Cena grabs his belt and charges, but Orton dodges and the backup ref gets taken out. Another RKO, but no one's here to count again. Then SmackDown GM Nick Aldis shows up with his staff, and they all end up taking RKOs. He's stalking his way to Cena when R-Truth shows up and begs him not to do the pump. Truth gets an RKO, then Orton jaws at him over the ropes, and when he turns, Cena blasts him with the belt. Cover, and even though it takes a referee a long time to get in the ring and count it, Randy's out, and Cena gets the pinfall, and retain the undisputed WWE Championship. The champ gets on the mic, saying he doesn't need music or the fans, what he needs is competition. Cena calls himself the last real champ, then poses with the belt, and the show goes off the air. How much you would rate WWE Backlash 2025 show? Tell me in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe the channel for regular updates and videos, and thanks for watching.